So, Dehkia Cyclops. I wonder for how many of you this is an actual new area that you never visited, and for how many of you this is just simply old news. You already moved on, you have Ulukita, you have the shoes, flame to grind, you have the new artifacts to grind, you have Histria or Akman Dehkia, and this is just forgotten in the past. But for me, it's my first time grinding here, and I was both impressed and a bit disappointed. At first I was impressed by how easy the spot is, especially since it's Dehkia. I was always afraid of Dehkia or Ulukita because it's hard content and I might get one shot, but not really. The mechanics are fairly simple. For those who don't know, you get waves of gargoyles for like 2.5 minutes, I believe, something like that. Which they don't really do any significant damage. You one-shot them, you don't even have to get gear specific for them. You have demi-human artifacts here, but the gargoyles are not even demi-human, so that's literally just trash monsters, and they give you one type of trash, and then for the other half you have the Cyclops, the thing that is supposed to one-shot you, but he doesn't really if you know the mechanics. That's why I say the spot is easy. The quick rundown, I suppose, would be around 50% HP, the Cyclops will do the first red circle AoE, which you can either run out of it, or if you have enough damage you can brute force through it, and then around 20% HP he does another big red circle screamy AoE, which should one-shot you, but again, you can brute force through it because it takes ages to cast it. This is the first difference I noticed 7 hours into the grind. I spent 10 hours here, and for the first 6 I was using standard buffs, just, you know, Deep Sea Elixir or Courage, and then Frenzy, just no elixirs, and I did have to run away from his circles. That's why, let's just say it got a bit boring, and then 7 hours in I moved to an elixir rotation and I do more damage with the elixir rotation, and I noticed, well, I risked it to not run away from the circle, and as you can see from the clip in the background, you can just simply brute force through it. I'm pretty sure that's how most people grind here. Most people who have a bit more AP than I do, maybe those who already have the new artifacts, or just, again, more brackets, the Boreka accessories, with a bit more gear, you can consistently do this. For me, it was a very close call. There were many times when I should have died, but the Cyclops just died in time for me to survive. So that's pretty much it for how you grind here, how it goes. TLDR, if you don't have enough damage gear, you kind of have to run away from the big AoE circles, and then the rest is just whatever back attack damage. If you have enough damage, or you have the correct class, maybe with, you know, stronger class, then you can just simply brute force through the entire thing. You don't really care much for what the Cyclops does. At least that was my experience, right? He doesn't always follow the exact same pattern, but the big AoEs almost always happen at the same time. I should probably clarify that the first AoE, around 50% HP, he doesn't cancel into it, so if he's in the middle of doing whatever else, that first red circle will get delayed, so it will be cast a bit later, and then the one around 20% HP, he just straight up cancels into it. Whatever the Cyclops is doing, he's gonna stop doing that, and it will immediately go into the animation for the second red circle. Other things worth mentioning, you kinda have to park your horse nearby, far away from the gargoyles, I suppose, but you will have to drop trash on your horse. I have 30 plus maids, and I still ran out of maid space or cooldown, so that's something to think about. And yeah, that's about it. Time for the numbers part. First, I suppose the gear. The AP cap here is 1000 AP, but it's only 70% soft cap, so AP still matters after that. It's self-explanatory, but basically you have to aim for 1000 AP. I had this gear, 312 AP on Awakening with demi-human artifacts. According to Garmoth, 950 AP, basically 1000 with the extra 50 from add-ons and self AP buffs, so I'm literally at the AP cap, the soft cap for the spot. The journals don't really matter. Crystals, again, back attack crystals, and then as much AP as I could get with one Elcar for accuracy, and just basically the standard expensive crystals that everyone has access to. Add-ons, these were the add-ons that I used. That doesn't matter if you don't play Guardian, right? And then for consumables, As I said earlier, I did go for an elixir rotation. Basically from here, replace the elixirs with a frenzy instead, and this sometimes with a deep sea elixir instead of the courage, and that's what I ran for the first 7 hours. For the other 7, I basically ran these elixirs. I just chose the offensive types because, again, you don't really die unless you get hit by some of the big... It's easy to dodge a Cyclops, so I didn't really care for defensive buffs. I would recommend you to get a house buff as well if you have access to it. This one for 15 extra AP. It's self-explanatory, I just didn't have it. For me it expired, I couldn't buy one, the pre-orders were just a pain, so I didn't have the house buff. So yeah, let's look at some numbers. First Garmoth, because we take stuff in order. I spent 10 hours here in total. This is the breakdown per hour. 10.5 thousand trash per hour average according to Garmoth. The first hour, looking back at it now, it's really bad. Just again, my very first attempt. This one was also bad as well. Around here, the first 11,000, this is when I swapped to elixir rotation. So 11,000, this one, I know why this one was bad. I died like 3 or 4 times gambling that I can actually finish off the Cyclops, but I couldn't. That's why this hour is not 11,000, because I died too much and I had to manually repop elixirs because I don't have continuous care. I know that's a pain, but still 11.5, 11.7, that's kind of what I can pull with. Again, Awakening Guardian may not be the best class here, and elixir rotation. That's why I say I recommend elixirs, they are much better. 2 earrings average per hour 1.9. It is a bit below average. I will show you the Garmoth Global data a bit later, but in any case there's not much else to point out here other than I tried to almost max out my drop rate as often as I could, because here you make most of the money from earrings. You kind of want these. The trash is okay, but still 1.4 billion per hour on yellow loot scroll average. On global data, people seem to get 2.7 earrings average per hour, almost 3, better than I got. 1.7 billion per hour, more money, and slightly higher average trash per hour than I did. Again, I can do 11.7, 11.5-ish around here with elixir rotation, but on average I performed worse. I went for 285% extra drop rate because my average was 288, so it is pretty much a fair comparison. On the Excel side, it's interesting how, just like at Gyfins, everything is sellable to the marketplace. You make money from... There are no more items you don't sell to the marketplace, at least for these areas. For the trash conversions, I know most people don't pay attention to them, but still, blue loot scroll and then blue plus Agris, I always try to estimate these numbers. It's just worth mentioning this time that the Cyclops, the big boy, Agris doesn't work on him, so that's why these numbers are identical on blue or blue plus Agris, because Agris does nothing for the main trash and then just a secondary trash gets converted. That's why the Agris efficiency is so poop here, because half of the trash doesn't, half of your trash per hour doesn't get scaled with Agris. It doesn't work. For the loot scroll scaling, I went for 50% on the main Cyclops because he drops a lot of trash, so it should be perfect scaling, and then it's 41.6 for the gargoyles, the secondary trash, the one that works with Agris. In terms of raw profit, it's 1.35, 1.35 on blue, 1.5 on yellow, and almost 1.6 on blue plus Agris. This is the money you would make without excluding anything. You know what, I never point out in my videos that I don't take out the money I spend to buy a tent buff if I buy it, to use elixirs, the 60 million silver per hour for the courage or the deep sea elixir or the elixir rotation, just all of those costs I don't put them, or I don't subtract them from the money per hour. In this case I had to, because Garmoth subtracts 80 million silver for the lantern itself, so I did the same. I only subtracted the money you would have to spend to recharge the lantern, so these are the profits according to Garmoth, right? 1.4, 1.45 on yellow, and then with faster speed, because I averaged 10.5 thousand trash, and again I can average 11.5 at least with elixirs nowadays, I would expect these numbers. Raw on top, and then with the lantern subtracted at the bottom. I wish I had better RNG with earrings, because it's a bit sad that my numbers are lower than the Garmoth Global average. Still, for Agris Efficiency, it's pretty much the same story as Gyfins. I was only able to spend 18 minutes, even though Agris only works on gargoyles. I only went 18 minutes until I was out of Agris. I spent 96,000 points in 18 minutes. It's estimated around 24,000 trash per hour, blue plus Agris, which gets converted to 16, the gargoyle trash, and I averaged 16.5, so it's even lower, slower speed than my average. That's why I tried to scale it up here to, let's say, 17.7. Basically, I scaled the Agris run, the 18 minutes, to this speed, the 11.7 main trash per hour speed, just in case people are curious. The TLDR here is 350,000 Agris per hour. You don't even have that much. It's straight up bad. The efficiency number would be 70 million silver per hour extra from Agris alone on its own. If you spend all of it, it's bad. It's just simply bad. Compared to the other areas I tested, you know, since I came back, the 5 spots I got to go through, it is basically the worst. It's worse than Orcs and Biragi, than Serendia Elvia. So yeah, definitely don't bother with Agris here. Next we have the loot scroll efficiency. Should you use blue or yellow? Before that, I should show you this, just because, right, for context. Out of the trash you get here, 55% of it comes from the Cyclops trash, and then 44 came from the Gargoyle trash. And if this is the scaling for both of those, on average the blue loot scroll should be 46% scaling. With that in mind, again, 41% from Gargoyles, and then I went for 46 on average, including the Cyclops trash. I added the numbers, what we just grinded, the 1.5 billion raw, without subtracting any money for, you know, consumables, because that's how it should work. 27,000 trash per hour, because I had to combine both types of trash. Again, I had to average the value of the trash as well. You don't really care much for this side. Let's just say 388 drop rate, almost capped, you know, almost capped at 300. It converts to blue, and the result is 45%. It's bad. Let's just say, I don't know, if you have too many scrolls, you can use yellow. I kind of tend to use yellow everywhere, or level 2 loot scroll, but it seems like it's not really worth it. You should probably use blue loot scroll. It's up to you. It's just efficiency is bad. It's kind of wasteful, but if you have too many, go for it. The 10th buff, it's actually much better than Gyfin's, at least 115. You know, you spend 50 million for the 10th buff, at least. It makes sense, honestly. It makes sense because you make most of the money here from the dons, the just rare items. This is a spot where you kind of gamba for rare item drop rate, so I suppose anything that gives you rare item drop rate is worth it. So you just buy the 10th buff, always buy the 10th buff. And lastly, for experience, I pretty much spoiled it on the Gyfin's video, but yeah, Dehkia Cyclops is not really good. For either skill points or experience, just I bumped up the speed to 12,000 trash per hour, the Cyclops trash on yellow loot scroll. So basically good speed, but it's bad. You shouldn't really bother here. It's basically not a spot where you go to level up, right? You come here just to gamba, to maybe make insane money. If you're lucky with dons, this is a very good spot. Honestly, if you get lucky and you get 3, 4, 5 in one of my hours, the last one, I got like 2.7, I believe, billion in 1 hour, because I dropped 6 earrings in total. That was by far my best hour. You can get RNG carried here and make a lot of money, but then I also had 1 hour where I got nothing, or I think 2 hours where I got nothing. And in those hours you basically just question, why am I even here? I make more money by grinding just anything else, Biragi. So, you know, it's a gamba spot. All in all, I had a pretty good time here. Honestly, this was the very first time where I saw firsthand that an elixir rotation is much better than the standard frenzy, some perfume, and then food buffs, right? So that was a learning lesson for me. Just I should try elixir rotation in more areas, more high-end areas, because it was very, very noticeable. As soon as I started using elixirs, I was suddenly able to just push through the big AoEs, the one-shot mechanics for the Cyclops, and just not care as much. Yeah, sure, I died a couple of times because it happens. I barely have the damage to kill it. you know, just to push through the mechanics. But in any case, it was a fun time. I liked it here. Let me know what was your experience here, or if you never came here, what do you expect out of the spot? Are you afraid of it, like I was? In any case, I will see you next time, because I'm rambling with who knows what. I didn't test anything yet, so maybe Dehkia Histria, maybe Dehkia Akman, just one of the buffed interesting spots. Until next time, as always, have a good rest of your day. Like the video if you enjoyed it, because it actually does help a lot, and it puts a smile on my face, so why not? It's a win-win. So yeah, I will see you whenever I see you. Bye bye!